Christopher Luxon talking on the AM show this morning about co-governance and how it works, how co-governance should work.
That yesterday at Ratana. Chris Hipkins hit back and said on co-governance, he said there's a particular park in the Hutt Valley in his electorate, Te Whiti Park, which has long been managed by co-governance between Māori and between the government or the local council. He says no complaints, great facilities, in fact, better facilities than there were before. It's working well. Do you have a problem with that?
No. So really the issue is this, which is that if you think about co-management or co-governance as it was previously used, it was in the context always of local iwi, working with local government to manage local natural resources in the context of treaty settlements.
So that's the first thing. The line of demarcation that he's trying to draw is it's about local, local, local. Now, one could argue straight away that's a particularly unbusiness model-like way to run anything, to have smaller entities all being funded and costing to look after things rather than a larger conglomerate. It would be like Air New Zealand, for example, having an Auckland base and a Wellington base and a Dunedin base and a Christchurch base and a Tauranga base all being funded independently and operate independently. But that's not the best way on a business model, and only using that because they're his terms, to get the best bang for your buck. It is to centralize things. But the argument here from the man who's talking about business is as long as it's local and as long as it's got to do with natural resources, we're okay with it. All right, we'll keep going.
And by and large, those arrangements have worked incredibly well because Māori have fantastic contributions to make and decision making around those kind of assets. What we're talking here, though, is over the last few years, the government has done something different, which is to start to take that word co-governance and put it into a completely new and different context, which is centralised bureaucracy for the delivery of public services. And that's been my frustration. And as I've said to the Prime Minister before, is, hey, listen, on a constitutional issue like co-governance of public services, which are designed for all New Zealanders, health, education, justice systems, critical infrastructure like Three Waters, that's a different case. And from my point of view, that's what I was saying yesterday.
So co-governance of public services, which are designed for all New Zealanders. That's the quote. I wrote that down. Co-governance of public services, which are designed for all New Zealanders. And then he cites health care as one of them. Now, if you follow me on Twitter, you may have already seen this today. I don't know about you, Chewy, but cervical screening is somewhere within the healthcare sector that I don't have access to because I don't need it. I'm excluded from it. And it's within one system having a separate setup for another group of people who need that setup. So this is where I start to go, well, how are we now drawing a line in the sand when he says co-governance of public services, which are designed for all New Zealanders? That's why he's against co-governance. But prostate cancer is not designed for all New Zealanders. Yes, it's within a health system designed for all New Zealanders, but so is a Maori Health Authority.
Yeah.
Anything, sir?
I in broad strokes, I just don't see what he's afraid of. Like, we saw how effective Māori groups could be in a healthcare setting when they just said, give us the money and let us reach our people. And they did. Like, vaccination rates within Māori were really low until basically they just went out with vans to marae and started talking to the community to get things done. That's what National's all about, getting things done. So give it to the people that are getting it done.
Well, we're going to get into that as well, because the thing that's most confusing about this conversation is, and not to sort of get ahead of ourselves, but when he gets asked, are you okay with iwi providing their own health services and the public funding it? He says, that's what I'm talking about. What's the Māori Health Authority? But look, I'm getting ahead of ourselves. Let us continue.
Okay with the park and the hut, that's cool. Co-governance of the Waikato River, you're fine with that too?
Yep.
That's working
I think
well.
those arrangements have worked
they're working
incredibly well.
So co-governance of natural resources like that, you're okay with. What is the difference? So would you say then, in regards to the Waikato River, that you are in support of the co-governance of natural resources like that?
Yeah. So we've had
So what's the difference between that natural resource and Three Waters?
Yeah. So essentially, those natural resource those co-governance arrangements around local natural resources have often been done in the context of Article 2 of the treaty, which is fantastic, and we support that, and that's been positive, I think, by and large. What I'm talking about, though, is that actually having separate healthcare systems, education systems, justice systems.
But that's the hang on.
That is the delivery of public.
So this is now the line National's trying to sow. That's a fantastic freeze frame. That it's a separate health system. Now, he talks about Hangareo and that working within the current education system, but he's talking about we don't want to set up a separate system. Now, Ryan Bridge, again, credit where credit's due, just eliminates this altogether in a sec when he points out that the overall healthcare system is a $15 billion industry. The Māori Health Authority is worth about $150 million. There's no way that they're setting up their own healthcare system for $150 million out of $15 billion. What's that? That's 1%, $150 million? Because 1.5 billion would be 10. Yeah, so it's 1%. So it's 1% of the health budget. And Christopher Luxon's trying to sow the seed that we don't want to have separate health systems for different people. Although within the system, he's okay with within the system there being, specialist areas even for and by Māori, but he doesn't want a different health system for and by Māori. Like
that's good, because that's not what he's going to get, is it?
Exactly.
I noticed that he chucked justice in there as well, and like in all of these cases when there's been trials of increasing Māori participation, Māori leadership in these areas for Māori, they've seen better results in pretty much every circumstance. We've had everybody's the same healthcare system for 50 years.
Yeah.
Longer. And what all that has delivered is atrocious outcomes for Māori. So if it's not working, let's not do it anymore. Let's try something else.
Let's be clear, right? It's not just atrocious outcomes for Māori. There are other groups of people who have atrocious outcomes for them as well. However, we have a contractual arrangement with Māori to deliver something to them, right? That doesn't mean that we ignore the health issues with Pacifica or with, disabled people or any other group as well. But we actually have a contractual agreement that needs to be abided by at the moment. Now, if in 10, 500, 5,000 years from now, that agreement changes, that's fine. But we currently have a contract, right, known as the Treaty of Waitangi. And that means, yes, we are a multicultural country with multicultural needs to be provided, but we're basing all of that on a bicultural agreement. So actually, the Māori Health Authority speaks to what the contractual agreement we have as well with Māori. Now, some people may not like that. They might go, well, gosh, what does that mean to Māori? How do we decide that? Well, that's actually what they're in the process of doing. How you don't decide that is to go, fuck it, you can be like us. When being like us is not working, all you got to have a look at is the 9 years life expectancy less Māori have from the general population. Something needs to be done differently. There is a sector of society who needs more and something specifically done to help them in health. The Labour government is calling that the Māori Health Authority. The national government is like, just let's keep on going with what we had in the past. Ignore that, which isn't working. Right?
Yeah.
So we'll keep going, yeah? Keep going.
Services.
And but let's take Three Waters. Let's take Three Waters. You're okay with the co-governance of a particular body of water, but not national bodies of water. Why?
No, what we're talking about with respect to Three Waters, that is about infrastructure. That is about pipes and the management of stormwater, wastewater, fresh water, and that's a different issue.
So, Waikato River, that all those things apply to the Waikato River, right? There are pipes that go in and out of the Waikato River. They have to worry about fresh water. They have to worry about sewage. All those things on some level are handled co-governance via the Waikato River. So now he's red herring it. He's almost gaslighting it because he's saying that doesn't apply to that at all, where it does. It may not apply to it as clearly and as much because Three Waters is about pretty much pipes and pipes alone, but pipes, which is his infrastructure issue, are also contained within the Waikato River. So so it's gaslighting to say it's got nothing to do with it. It's completely different. It's factually inaccurate.
In the sense of those assets paid for by local government, local citizens and ratepayers, they should be returned to them, and there isn't a role for co-governance in that kind of conversation.
And this is the other question that we often say, using our lovely friends at Ngor as an example. So he says that the locals have paid for it, the locals could get the benefit from it. So, Mr. Luxon, here's my question. What happens in Ngor and any other country, any other area where $300 million needs to be invested to bring that infrastructure up to code? If you're saying it's all about the locals putting their money into it, therefore are you also saying that if money needs to be put in, it's got to be on the backs of the locals? Because what that means is $50,000 over 10 years per ratepayer in Ngor. What's your solution for that, Mr. Luxon? Because to me it seems obvious that's going to have to be centralized, but you're saying here right now saying it can't be centralized. So what is it?
It's an argument that doesn't make any sense to me. It's like the government's not going to come in and rip up the pipes and take them away from us, start from scratch again. Like, people don't think about their pipes. They think about their rates. They think about their taxes. And by replicating all of the same thing right throughout every council in the country sounds awfully inefficient to me.
Yeah. No, I agree. And look, we'll say it again. Not carrying water for anyone. I think the idea, the concept of Three Waters is good. The execution of Three Waters is shithouse. And the communication of Three Waters is shithouse. The idea, and Gore's your perfect example, that's going to be centralized. Yep. You in North Canterbury, you in Waikato, you in Wellington, you in Auckland are going to be paying for Gore's infrastructure. So following Mr. Luxon's example, you shouldn't be. Gore, go fuck yourself. It's not how it works. It's not how it works. Because the other thing about Gore, right, that's right next door to Balclutha. Right, thing about Balclutha is it's right next door to Dunedin, and it's right next door to Southland. It's right next door to Queensland. So if Gore is this little third world country with their infrastructure, because under national, locals have to look after it, that is going to flow on to other regions. Now, I'm saying Gore because I know about our local stuff. Wherever you are, you will have a neighbor, or you will have a neighbor to a neighbor who is in the same boat. And if they've got lead in their pipes, if they've got Campylobacter going through their pipes, what, do you think the water's just going to stop where the pipes meet your boundary? So it stops there because our infrastructure is fine. Of course not. It's ridiculous. Right, we'll keep going.
What we're talking about is the delivery of co-governance of public services. And that's what I came to Ratana yesterday, and it was raised with me at Ratana, and I thought it would be disingenuous not to say what we think about that.
Okay. So
we can, because my argument's very simple, is public services are designed for all New Zealanders. We have one government. They deliver a public service to all New Zealanders in need. That's the basis for what we do.
But does a river not provide a public service?
But within that one system, we can target, say, for example, Kura and Karangareo schools will still exist, but we do it within the coherence of one education system, not two separate education systems.
So there you go. There's an education system for Māori that he's happy to support, which is separate from who it's providing for. It's run by Māori for Māori, but because it comes under the Ministry of Education, he's okay. So basically what he's saying is if the Maori Health Authority, if he's consistent, was run by Māori for Māori under the current health system, it would be okay. Guess what? It's under the current health system. What is your point, Humpty Dumpty?
The point is he's trying to blow on a dog whistle as much as he can because he knows a big chunk of his party support doesn't like this stuff. And he's trying to walk, I think, a personal line that he doesn't have as much of a problem with Māori as some of his supporters do.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's keep going.
Okay, so do you think that a separate health system is being created in the development of the Māori Health Authority?
Correct. So I see that as two separate systems, and that's why I think that the Māori...
Notice the language, though. I see that as two separate systems. That's very different from it's two separate systems. I see you and me as friends, Chewy. You may see it very differently. I see us as quality broadcasters. Most of the media in the world may see it very differently. You know what I'm saying? So he either picked that very carefully or he came across it by luck. But Mr. Luxon sees it as two separate entities. Doesn't mean that it is two separate entities.
Health Authority should be scrapped.
Okay, so the Māori Health Authority, as you'll be aware, has iwi Māori partnership boards. Do you know what they do?
Yes, and they exist, that you can have iwi partnership boards that exist within the current one healthcare system or one Ministry of Health as it is today.
But there's not going to be a separate hospital for Māori.
No, but there is.
So it's not going to be a separate health system.
Yeah, but that's where the clarity.
Do you know what the budget is for health versus Māori Health Authority?
I don't know.
It's
that.
$15 billion for the health system,
Yep.
and about 168 million is all they've allocated so far for the Māori Health Authority. It's hardly a separate health system.
All I'm saying to you very clearly,
1%. 1%. And Mr. Luxon gets challenged with that. And what's his response? All he's got is the.
I think I've been very clear. I've said very clearly.
Point.
I have to repeat myself because I've said this so clearly, because
So
I'm good at politics.
You listen to this question, and the response when Ryan Bridge says, it's hardly this, and his response is the talking point. It's completely ignoring the question, not engaging. It's the talking point.
Separate health system.
all I'm saying to you very clearly is that in the delivery of public services, we should not have two systems, two separate systems. We should have one system. We can have innovation within that, deliver those services by Māori, for Māori.
But why is it okay for a river?
Okay. Really important point there. Listen to this again.
Those services by Māori, for Māori.
Why is it okay for a river?
So, let me read this to you because I jotted it down. Just think about what the Māori Health Authority is, yeah? He's against that. But what he's okay with is innovations within the health system delivered by Māori for Māori. Innovations within the health system delivered by Māori for Māori. So Luxon's for that, but he's against the Māori Health Authority. Christopher Luxon is for innovations within the health system delivered by Māori for Māori. He even gets to a point in a second where Ryan Bridge says to him, so let's cancel the Māori Health Authority, but then we can still allocate that $168 million to Māori. And he says, yes. So it's not the money. It's not the Māori who are delivering it for Māori. It's that he's trying to sell some kind of bullshit lie that it's a second health system, and that it's also that Labor bad. That's the argument. That's it.
If he's going to bang this drum for separatism, it's the same drum that Seymour's banging.
And remember,
don't like it.
And remember, it's this man who claimed the conversation around co-governance is immature and divisive and has nothing to do with them. This man that we're listening to right now, that we're going to keep listening to, and I apologize for that.
Why is it okay for a park and not for the health system?
Well,
what is the fundamental difference?
Well, the government hasn't made the case for that. You know, they haven't made the case.
What's
because
the case against it?
So the public services are designed for all New Zealanders.
We'll go past that one.
New Zealanders and support New Zealanders on the basis of need. And so what we want to be able to do is target those needs, meet those needs under one system.
Yes, that's what we're saying.
Yeah. So if the need is Māori, for example, dying 9 years earlier, how do you do that, Mr. Luxon?
To schools, for example, within an education system, but it's within the confines of one.
Okay, all right. So here's an example then. So let's say we keep the health system as it is, but because presumably you want to address the 7-year inequity in terms of lifespan between
absolutely.
Okay, so we've got the health system as it is, and then would you be okay with then iwi providing their own health services and being funded by the taxpayer to do that?
They do that in many cases today within the existing system.
Cranking it up.
That's what I'm talking about. Absolutely, because
I'm losing my mind.
Okay, you ready? Remember what I just said there?
I'm losing my mind.
Sure, you might have been having a seizure at the time.
I am currently
Christopher
having a seizure.
Luxon just said, that's what I'm talking about, when he was asked, are you okay with iwi providing their own health services and having the public funded? And his response was, that's what I'm talking about. So he's okay with iwi providing health needs for Māori, being funded by the public, but he's cancelling the Māori Health Authority.
Right. Good. Yes. No, he's been very clear on that.
We'll keep going.
So is that not so?
Because what I'm trying to say to you is, look, I'm interested in outcomes, right? Really
Yeah.
strongly. We have real challenges around, Māori health outcomes. Fully understand that. But over the last 5 years, this government has not delivered a single improved Māori, health outcome.
Understand
and
that.
under the Maori Health Authority, by its own admission, it's saying for another 5 years it won't deliver an improved outcome.
Okay.
A decade of no.
Look, I want to give credit
what's
where
the
credit's
outcome?
due. Credit where
What's the
credit's due.
outcome?
Yeah, but this is the thing, right? And let's say V Bunch said Ryan finally brought his brain into the studio today. Yay, at last. However, trends within the health system, and this is not an excuse, you will not see a change within a trend within a health system over 5 years, right? And what Mr. Luxon is saying is in 5 years, there's been no improvements. I actually disagree with that significantly, but we can get into that another night. But let's go with it. Therefore, the question, Ryan, is what differences will we see in your first 5 years as government? If you are criticizing the incumbents because there's been no health outcome benefits in 5 years, what are you going to guarantee this country that we will see with Māori healthcare under your system in the first 5 years? And if you don't get it, will you resign? Because he's basically saying they haven't done shit in 5 years. So what that implies is we will. Because obviously, if you're saying they haven't done shit and you're going to go, nah, we're not going to do shit either, there's no talking point there. So he's implying we will.
It's
so
just such
what
a
will
weird
you do?
Position they're taking is that Labour have not done anything, but we're going to undo everything that they've done, and and it's all outcomes and 5 year plans from Comrade Luxon. It's just so bizarre.
You can't call him comrade.
Well, if he's talking about a 5 year plan, a little man called Stalin had the same idea. So, it's you're right. Outcomes are from the health system are on such a long timeline. You're talking almost generational change we're aiming for.
Of course. Now, maybe some of this comes back to messaging, and maybe the Māori Health Authority, if indeed they have said you won't see anything in 5 years, is not the best way to say it. Maybe without giving that time frame, you could say it's a long-term plan. But whatever. Let's get the last 60 seconds of this and see where we go. I can't remember, actually. I think I've read on my notes. So let's just enjoy the last 60 seconds of this delightful interaction together.
Improved outcomes is unacceptable. Now, we can have one healthcare system that actually targets people on the basis of need, and that may be through the use of other community organisations as well as Māori or iwi organisations.
Is the money that would otherwise be spent on the Māori Health Authority, you will take that money and you will give that to iwi to deliver health services?
Absolutely, because what I'm really...
So there's at least $170 million from your...
Yeah, but remember, that means he's not arguing the money. No. So that has to be clear. He's not arguing it's a waste of money to spend 170 on Māori health needs, because he just said
arguing
big
the
time.
Logo.
Yeah.
He's arguing the logo and the branding. Seems to be his only objection.
Yes, preach it. That's exactly, you got it spot on there. He's arguing the logo, 100%.
Budget that you will be giving to iwi to deliver health services.
Yeah, because I come from a different place, which is that I think that actually delivering those services, there's not one mode of delivery out of Wellington that has to deliver those services. Actually delivering those...
This is the other bullshit. I guarantee you, if you have a look at the Māori Health Authority, there's no like 0.7.4. We will have one version of delivery and it'll only come out of central. Okay, do you know what comes out of central Wellington? Funding for the police. Is there one mode of delivery, or in each region, do they approach it the best way for that region? You know, the kids in your school, the grandkids in your schools, funding comes from central government. Do you think in every single school it comes out exactly the same, or do they provide the need for the kids that are in front of them? So this is just a bullshit talking point, and I'm fucking over it. I'm over it big time.
Services through community organisations that are closest to the people and to the challenges that are on the ground is the right way to do it. At the moment, so much of our money is lost in the bureaucracy of Wellington. Okay. Our healthcare money at the moment is being spent building mega bureaucracies in Wellington, when we believe in localism and devolution, and those closest to it should deploy it and actually deliver it. I think, you've got community organisations that can deliver food lunch programs into schools much better than Wellington can. Yep. I think Māori health organisations can actually deliver Māori health services a lot better than what the government can do centrally through Wellington.
I did a piece last year, which was Christopher Luxon is coming for your school lunches. You hear what he just said? So in other words, central government can't deliver school lunches to schools, but local bodies can. So therefore, central government will cancel it. And then all of a sudden, there'll be some people left without it.
Yeah. So some schools will get it and others won't. And it's just like this pushback against this monolithic Wellington-based bureaucracy that they seem to be conjuring out of the bad old days of the 70s is just so tired. We have tried neoliberal public-private
Claptrap.
Public-private cooperation. Well, let's get the businesses know how to run this better, so we'll just pay for more consultants, and we'll pay a private company to do it and make profit. It's like I want to go the other way. Bring back the Ministry of Works.
I want to just finish up again with just actually reiterating what we've just seen, right? We've seen Mr. Luxon say he is for innovations within the health sector, and those systems can be delivered by Māori for Māori. He's for that. He is okay. In fact, he's more than okay with iwi providing their own health services and the public funding it. In fact, when that point got brought up in this, he said, "That's what I'm talking about," and got all a little bit of sweat running on the side of his face, right? However, he is going to cancel the Maori Health Authority.
Yeah.
Because he's selling some kind of strange idea that a Maori health funding that makes up 1% of their overall health budget is going to use that 1% to start up their own health system. Ooh, he is okay with Kohanga Reo and other Maori schools because they come under the Ministry of Ministry of Education. Sorry, he's trying to sell the boogeyman thing that the Maori Health Authority won't come under the health system. It is, it will. It's completely hypocritical. He's not a moron. He's gaslighting. 100% gaslighting and dog whistling.